Okay, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good.
First off, I detect a British accent. Are you from the UK?
Yes, once upon a time. I was born in England, and grew up, went to school there. And soon after I graduated, I had an opportunity to come to the United States. And I was very fortunate that I found myself being able to stay. And I've been here ever since I came over.
How long ago was that?
I hate to admit it, but it's now in excess of 40 years.
40 years. Well, your accent hasn't gone
Yes.
away.
It's gone down quite a bit. My mother, when she was still alive, told me that she thought I had an American accent now, but yes, it still lingers.
I suppose it depends on your perspective. If you're from Britain, it's going to sound like a very soft accent, but if you're in the United States, people are going to detect it, I think. Yeah.
Yes, and when I originally came to America, I had received a work opportunity to work in Iowa, and so being somewhat youngish, it was a nice place to land, somewhat safe-ish, and it also gave a good opportunity to explore the rest of America, because certainly during the winter months in Iowa, you really couldn't do too much, so tended to fly out to places and got to see a lot of the US that way. So it was a good time.
I see on your bio it says a distinguished luminary in data driven business decisions. That's rather grand. What
Yes.
does that mean exactly?
Well, in my job as a technician, I was a distinguished engineer. And within my company, that was the highest level of technical achievement that a technical person could achieve. And in addition to that, I've had the opportunity throughout my career to working over 50 different countries around the world. The majority of the countries I visited, I was working with various government agencies or government ministries, depending on what the particular country called them. So I've got to see quite a bit of the world and working with different governments and helping them with their computer systems and trying to drive new capabilities about how to serve people. Really kind of developed an acute understanding about our modern digital age and how information can be used to bear. And through that, I did write a number of technical books that have been informative about how to set up complex and complicated computer systems. And some of the newer books have certainly delved into artificial intelligence and some of the newer technologies that are now available.
Are you still doing that?
Yes.
Okay, so you've
Uh,
seen the great expansion of technology over the last, uh, 30 years or so, at least?
it was crazy. Before I came to America, my last job that I had in England, it was with a small company in London, in the East End of London, and it was a smoked salmon manufacturer. So they made smoked salmon, and they had a very, very small computer department. That it was just three people. It was myself as a programmer, developer. There was a machine operator, and then there was a manager. And at that time, um, because it was a small company, they couldn't invest too much in technology, and so they still used what were the 80 column cards from, I mean, literally millennia ago. And because they didn't have sophisticated equipment, every punched hole that went into a card, each individual hole I had to put in there as a developer programmer. And so became a very laborious way to write an application and code for a machine to do something. And so, having experienced it from very archaic Stone Age type of instrumentation to creating computer systems to what's available today, it's certainly been a dramatic shift, and it's been interesting to see how things have changed. Not really just over time, but year over year, there's such dramatic progression in how computer systems are created and developed and deployed.
You're talking about those IBM Punch Cards that they used to
Yes.
shuffle through the. How many bits were on one card? Do you remember?
It was 80 columns. There were in each column you could have up to 12 holes. So it was up to 12 by 80 if you punched out every single hole. And the original size of it came from the dollar bill at the time when it was created, because then it would be easy to put a card into a jacket pocket to carry. Because one of the originations from it was from a census bureau, to note who you are and everything. And so because you could carry this around like identification, that its size as a dollar bill was thought then to be a size that would be easy to carry.
I can remember as a high school student that the new fax machines were just coming out, and this was probably in the mid to late 70s. And they were amazed that it could transmit 17 pages in an hour. And thinking about that now, it's laughable. But in those days, that was amazing.
Yes, certainly speed has increased tremendously by which you can do things, because even just downloading a song to stream, at one point could easily take well over an hour to do a 3-minute song, and now you want it now in real time. But even within one of my projects, I was fortunate enough to do some initial work around data for NASA in their preparations to send an astronaut to Mars. And on that, when you do go into deep space, the latencies by which you can transmit will certainly get into tens and tens of minutes for messages to come and go. So the days of how long it took for a fax machine to send something will certainly come back to be experienced by those that end up doing these deep space travel to Mars and other planets.
So you mentioned that you wrote a bunch of technical books, and you've now also written a fictional, it looks like a series here. I see 3 books on here.
Yes,
Esteban.
it's about a person who struggles with a number of things, but ends up leading a significant life and leaving behind a major legacy. So Esteban himself is named after his father, which is Stephen. So Esteban is Spanish for Stephen. And part of the reason why Esteban is called Esteban is because his parents created a very dysfunctional household, and the name came out of part of that dysfunctionality, that his father wanted him to be Stephen Jr. His mother was really annoyed with his father at the time and tried to get back at him, and so decided to call him Stephen, but the Spanish equivalent, which is Esteban. And that in turn created further friction, whereby his father, Stephen, would never show any love to Esteban at all, and generally ignored him. And that created a lot of problems in his growing up. And so Esteban is a trilogy that takes you through the life of Esteban, as ultimately he looks to try to find some love because he finds it very difficult to get it.
Well, what does he do? What does Esteban do, actually?
Esteban ends up becoming a priest from his mother's urging. She tells Esteban that she thinks it'll be a good idea for him to become a priest. If he becomes a priest, she would surely be able to go to heaven. And doesn't he want her to be able to go to heaven? So she guilt trips him into going into the priesthood. And so again, it's a traumatic thing with love, that it creates a situation where his mother will love him, but she puts dependencies and everything else around that relationship that creates issues. Coming from this dysfunctional family, and the way his interactions with his mother and father, some of the relationships he has while growing up, causes him to go into the priesthood. And he further has meltdown, becomes suicidal, and ends up, he has an issue with schizophrenia that manifests in part environmental, part genetic, part from his family life that he has. But the one thing with his schizophrenia, and he does suffer hallucinations from his schizophrenia, is that in the entire 3 books, it's undiagnosed. So he is unaware that he has schizophrenia. Every character around him is unaware that he has schizophrenia. So the only person that gets insight into his condition is the reader. So should a reader, read the book or all 3 books, they end up knowing more than any of the characters combined in the story.
Where did this story come from? Is it something you experienced, or somebody you know, or did it just come out of the ether?
I think it was mostly the ether. A lot of it, in having been fortunate to work in so many countries across the world, I've had the opportunity to experience different cultures and different ethnicities, what it means to blend in, what it means to stand out, and looking at how people interact with each other, what expectations are set, what motivates people. A lot of these nuances I try to pull on and incorporate in various ways throughout the story.
Is this set in, you mentioned it's Spanish and his name is Spanish. Is this set in Spain or South America or somewhere?
The story starts in Laredo, Texas. Stephen, his father, meets his mother in Mexico City. Esteban is born in Mexico. And then there are a number of other countries where the story will go. But there is a basis of his beginnings being in Mexico.
In Mexico, all right. So, like I said, I see 3 books. Have all 3 been released at this point?
The 3rd book will be available in about 2 weeks. So in about 2 weeks, mid-August, all 3 books will be available. So the first book came out just before last Christmas in December. That one is called Esteban Loves Ordeal. The second one came out around Easter time in April, which is called Esteban Loves Irony. And the third one, not associated with any holiday, which is called Esteban Loves Triumph, comes out in August.
Is this a young adult series, or is it for adult? What is your target audience?
The target audience certainly would be an adult, somebody that would enjoy reading a unique story, somebody that's, if they follow certain storyline tropes like the hero's journey, to then find something different that is not holding true to the tropes that have been previously established. So I'm looking for, because of the summer material in it, the book doesn't seem to be offensive or anything like that, but there is some adult material in there because Esteban does have a love affair during the story. Because of that, it would be oriented towards adults, and adults that are interested in reading something new that they haven't potentially seen before. And with a couple of aspects, as I previously mentioned, one thing is the reader will read the story and come away with knowing something more than the characters do, which I think is somewhat unique. The other aspect too is that while across the 3 books, the arc of the story takes place over roughly 80 or so years, for the reader, everything is happening on the day that they're reading the book. So everything is current and fresh relative to the reader's perspective of reading something, but the narrative is actually occurs over a time horizon of about 80 years.
We've got just about a minute left, so I just wanted to ask if 3 books is going to finish this, or is it going to continue?
I have thoughts of some additional works to continue Esteban, but after the Esteban series, I will have another book out later this year called The Flat Tire, that is oriented around all people being equal and explores the notion of, while there is a Declaration of Independence for America, with a lot of things that are going on politically now, is the book explores the aspect of a redeclaration of independence against a backdrop that all people are created equal. That book will be out towards the end of the year. And then one that I hope will be out next year is called Born Posthumous, which gets into conflicts about how AI may cause more disruption than we would like into our daily lives.
Terminator?
Not quite. It's a story a little bit loosely coupled around Neil Young as a singer-artist, and then has an AI version of him after he passes away.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds interesting. Well, I think on that, we're going to have to wind this down. Last question. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Sure, thank you. It's tales.fish, so tales.fish. So that's the website. So it's just a play on words, fish tales. But the site is tales.fish.
Tales.fish. Okay, very good. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. It was nice meeting you, and best of luck with your writing, your book series. I hope they do well.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you.